Alright, I've just picked up Apple's M4 Mac Mini right here, so let's see what this thing really can do. Okay, so I'm going to be taking the Mac Mini through my everyday workflow, and along the way I actually picked up some Amazon accessories to show you guys how you can actually save your money. And with me, I've always wanted to have a device in my office space just so that I can have a dedicated area for work without having a huge desktop computer, because as you can see I am limited for space, and this fits perfectly right here. The size of this thing is absolutely insane. Also, where Apple decided to place that power button definitely got a lot of people talking. For me personally, it's not the biggest issue, but Apple could have really made life so much easier. It measures just 5 by 5 by 2 inches and it weighs 1.5 pounds. I know you've heard this enough, but this thing is seriously impressive with how small it is. Like, this can literally fit on the palm of my hand. It fits perfectly on my desk shelf, and honestly with its form factor, you can barely notice this thing. I mean, you can literally put this anywhere and it won't look out of place. It now comes with 2 USB-C ports at the front, alongside a 3.5mm headphone jack for easy access. At the back we have the power port, an Ethernet port and a HDMI port that's capable of up to 8K at 60Hz or 4K at 240Hz. There are also 3 additional USB-C ports on the back. While the front USB-C ports are limited to USB 3 speeds, the 3 on the back are much faster. With the M4 base model, which is the one I've got here, the rear ports are Thunderbolt 4 with speeds of up to 40GB per second. However, if you go for the M4 Pro model, those are upgraded to Thunderbolt 5 with speeds of up to 120GB per second. However, I do think it would have been nicer if Apple included Thunderbolt 4 on all the available ports. Now, not many people were happy with the placement of the power button, as it is now located on the bottom of the Mac Mini by the rear left hand corner. While the Mac Mini is slightly raised from the surface you place it on by the circular air vent bottom center, you still need to lift it up to reach the bottom. For me personally, this isn't much of a problem, but for some, this is a major talking point. Just a side note, the new Mac Mini only comes with the device itself and a power cord. Any other cables or peripherals will need to be purchased separately. The Mac Mini starts at $599 and comes with a 10-core CPU and GPU, 16GB of RAM, and 256GB of SSD storage. Now, this is possibly the best desktop computer out there when it comes to price to performance, but I do think 512GB should be the bare minimum to fully take advantage of this. But knowing what the Apple prices are like, you'd be paying an extra $200 to upgrade to 512GB and $400 to upgrade to 1TB, which is actually insane. But hey, there is a way around it without having to open it up and void your warranty. Now, this is where that Amazon package I showed you earlier comes in. What you can do is just buy a 1TB NVMe and an M2 enclosure. Getting it ready is super straightforward. You just have to screw everything in place and you're all good to go. As you can see, it fits seamlessly, and I've got it plugged around the back just so that it's out the way and I don't disconnect it by accident. Now, to have it set up, the first thing you should do is open up Disk Utility and make sure it's formatted to APFS. So this allows the external storage to run apps off of it. And really all that's left to do is copy apps from your external SSD drive, and once that's done, just delete them from your applications folder to free up storage. And now you can run it from your SSD and you should be good to go. I tried running Lightroom and it loaded up with no issues whatsoever. Leaving some extra free storage on the Mac's SSD is essential so that you can make the most out of the full power of the M4 chip. Note that apps running from the external SSD will still load onto your RAM and internal storage, but you'll free up space on your Mac Mini to keep things running smoothly and prevent it from crashing. Now, with its performance, we are working with a 10-core CPU and GPU along with 16GB of RAM. Currently I'm using the Mac Mini to power up 2 displays, but it can support up to 3 displays. Now, when it comes to performance, I'm not someone that likes using numbers, so what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to put it to the test and see how it handles the pressure. Alright, so I'm going to be running Google Chrome with multiple tabs open, including YouTube videos and a movie. And to my surprise, everything is running smoothly. For editing, you're definitely going to need one of these guys right here because we don't have a memory card reader. Now, first task is to open up Adobe Lightroom, so I imported some raw photos to have them edited. The Mac Mini handled this effortlessly. allowing me to apply edits and switch between images without any lag. With everything running in the background, I've got a Premiere Pro project opened up. Now this right here is my day in the life video featuring the M4 MacBook Pro, so be sure to check out that video when you get the chance. It was literally a movie. This project was packed with layers and transitions, making it a great stress test on the Mac Mini. I'm also scrubbing through the timeline in full resolution, and as you can see, there's no lag whatsoever. This is while everything was opened up and running in the background. It's safe to say that the external SSD came in clutch, because without it, it would have definitely crashed out on me or at least run out of memory. It literally managed to handle everything so well, and to my surprise, this was very similar to my base model M4 MacBook Pro. So let's go ahead and export this video while everything is running in the background and see how long this is going to take. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So it ended up taking about 26 minutes, so not bad at all considering this was a 17-minute video. But yo, this video was literally a movie. The full video is out on my YouTube channel, so be sure to check it out when you get the chance. And let me just say, the built-in speakers on this Mac Mini surprised me. Of course, they're not the best, but the built-in sound quality was far better than expected, especially compared to the previous Mac Mini models.
Martin Lawrence.
Go watch Def Comedy Jam. The greatest host of Def Comedy Jam ever.
His timing, but his performances when it's his hour.
When it comes to accessories, I would highly recommend either of these two from Mini Swapperoo. As we all know, the Mac Mini is pretty basic when it comes to ports and the lack of memory card slots. The first one is the horizontal stand hub, which has a sleek and elegant design. The Mac Mini fits perfectly on top of it, and there's a nice cutout for the power button. On the front, you find two USB-A ports with transfer speeds of up to 480 megabytes per second, plus one additional USB-A port around the back. The SD and TF card slots support data transfer speeds of up to 104 megabytes per second, and we have a 3.5mm headphone jack. The HDMI port supports 4K at 60Hz. At the bottom, there's a space for an NVMe SSD, so you don't have to spend that extra money on an external SSD enclosure, so it keeps everything nice and neat. The legs on the bottom are stable, and the flat design makes it nice and sturdy. Also, turning on the Mac Mini is no longer an issue, as this stand gives it a bit of height while ensuring that it doesn't block the fans and cause any overheating problems. The second option is a vertical stand where the Mac Mini sits upright, and don't worry, you still have access to all the ports, and the power button is super easy to reach. On the front, there's two USB-A 2.0 ports and one USB-C port with transfer speeds of up to 10 gigabytes per second. On the side, you'll find a USB-A 3.2 port that can transfer data at 10 gigabytes per second. There's also a 3.5mm headphone jack, one SD card slot, and one TF card slot, which is super useful for content creators. Like the first stand, this one allows you to expand your memory by adding an M2 NVMe SSD on the bottom. And as you can see, it fits perfectly. So it really depends on your personal preference. Having these accessories makes so much sense given the convenience and flexibility they provide. If you'd like to check them out, I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, the M4 Mac Mini is definitely one of the best looking Macs yet, and it takes up even less space on your desk, which is always a plus. But that placement of the power button can be a deal breaker for some, considering that it's actually gotten a major upgrade and a complete redesign. And although it performed really well, I'd say if you plan on using the M4 Mac Mini for heavy creative work like video production or other more demanding workloads, I'd say it's probably worth considering the Mac Studio instead. For most people though, the M4 Mac Mini is one of the best mini PCs you can get right now if you still want to keep using macOS instead of switching to Windows. So my final take on the M4 Mac Mini right here is this. I think the 256GB version is worth it if you're willing to purchase an external SSD to keep everything running smoothly. However, if you're not planning on getting an external drive, you should definitely go for at least 512GB to fully take advantage of its power. But that comes at a cost of $200. As for memory, 16 gigabytes should be more than enough for most people, but if you can stretch it to 24 gigabytes, it'll be even better, though it's pretty expensive. Honestly, the prices that Apple are charging for memory upgrades are absolutely insane, but at the end of the day, 16 gigabytes will be more than enough for most users. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care.